Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4. Krishna fulfills all desires. We are going to begin chapter 11 of Canto 4 today. Manu intervenes. Swambhuva Manu stops Dhruva from killing the Yakshas and give him spiritual instructions. Verses 1 to 3 now. Dhruva folded his palms and bowed his head to the celestial sages. He remembered he had an arrow given to him by Narayan. He sipped water to purify himself and then strung it on his bow. Instantly the Yakshas' illusions vanished. The Narayan weapon emitted innumerable golden arrows fletched with white feathers. They pierced right through the Yakshas with hissing sounds, like crowing peacocks entering the forest. Verse 4 now. The Yakshas fell back in disarray, stumbling here and there in a daze. Regroup, enraged generals ran about, pushing the Yakshas back to the fight. Here is but one man, pick up your weapons and attack. Urged on, the Yakshas raised their weapons and again rushed at Dhruva. They looked like serpents with raised hoods attacking Garud. Verse 5, Dhruva stood firm, his arrow sped towards him, slicing off their limbs and heads. Slain by Dhruva, they were dispatched to the higher planets in vast numbers. The heavenly sages saw their purified souls ascending to the highest planets reserved for the lifelong celibates. Verse 6, alarmed by what they saw, the sages reported the situation to Swambhuva Manu. Our Lord, your great-grandson, King Dhruva, has attacked Alkapuri and is single-handedly destroying the entire Yaksha race. When Manu learned the reason for Dhruva's attack, he immediately went there along with the sages. Verse 7 to 8, pulling his chariot up next to Dhruva's, Manu called out, "My dear son, please stop." Dhruva lowered his bow. Manu said, "Dear child, excessive anger takes one to hell. It is one thing to punish your brother's killer, but you are killing innocent Yakshas and this is not approved by authority. It does not befit our family line, for we are supposed to know the laws of religion." Dhruva's chest heaved. The Yakshas had brutally killed Uttam. They deserved to die. Verses 9 to 10. Manu ascended Dhruva's chariot and embraced him. "My dear boy, I know you are upset by your brother's death, but you are killing thousands of innocent Yakshas for the fault of one. Dear Dhruva, do not act in the bodily concept of life like an animal. Animals kill one another thinking they are the body, but you know better. So why are you unnecessarily killing others?" Dhruva lowered his eyes. "My lord, why is killing the Yakshas unnecessary or animalistic? I am a warrior, a king, and it is surely my duty to fight and kill the enemy." Manu stood before Dhruva and placed a hand on each of his shoulders. "It is very difficult for anyone to go back to the Lord's spiritual abode. Nevertheless, this is your guaranteed destination. Do you remember how you became recognized by the Lord?" Dhruva raised his eyes to meet Manu's but made no reply. "You worship the Lord, the supersoul of the universe and of every living being. As Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he is the abode of every living being, and as Kshirodakshai Vishnu, he lives in everyone's heart." Dhruva hung his head. Manu was right. Everyone's body was a temple of Vishnu. It was therefore wrong to unnecessarily kill anyone. Verses 12 to 14, Manu continued, "My dear boy, because you are such a great devotee of Lord always remembers you. You therefore have a responsibility to set the right example for others. I am shocked that you are killing so many faultless Yakshas. Do you forget that what most satisfies the Lord? He is pleased when his devotee recognizes the spiritual equality of every living being. Narayan wants his devotees to be tolerant, merciful and friendly. One who thus pleases the Lord is released from the material bondage and attains unlimited spiritual bliss." Dhruva buried his head in his hand and wept. Manu gently stroked his head. He could understand Dhruva's heart. Although he accepted that he must desist from killing the Yakshas, he was struggling to contain his grief for the loss of his brother. He needed to be reminded about transcendental knowledge that would dispel his sorrow. Verses 15 and 16 now. Dhruva listened to how our material bodies are created and how the material nature determines our destinies. Dhruva looked up. Wiping away his tears, he had many times experienced how Vedic teachings filled him with peace. Manu said, the material creation starts with 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether. Everything in the universe, including our bodies, are a combination of these elements. When a man and a woman unite, they generate more male and female bodies composed of these ingredients. My dear Dhruva, just as the creation and maintenance of material bodies takes place because of the interaction of the 3 modes of material nature, so does their destruction. Dhruva looked puzzled. If only the modes are responsible, are they partial to some and prejudiced against others? If not, why do some prosper while others are ruined? Verse 17, Manu replied, my dear boy, Lord Vishnu controls nature's modes, but he is never influenced by them. He has established laws of cause and effect which govern the interactions of living entities in the material world, and he oversees the implementation of these laws. Ultimately, he is the remote cause behind everything that happens. Consider the example of iron and a magnet. A piece of iron moves about as if it has life and a will of its own. But there is a magnet moving the iron. Dhruva's brow furrowed. Do you mean, my lord, Vishnu killed Uttam? Verse 18, Manu said, time is Vishnu's unconceivable energy. As time, he directs the wanderings of all living entities who are also his energies. Since everything is his energy under his direction, it seems he is the doer, that he is the person who killed your brother. In actuality, however, he is not responsible for killing your brother, nor is he responsible for anything that happens in the material world. You said that he is the ultimate cause behind everything, while now you are saying he is not responsible for anything. Verse 19, my dear Dhruva, time is one of the eternal forms of the Lord. Although time is never destroyed, it destroys everything. Similarly, time has no beginning, but it initiates everything. Time has no end, but brings about the end of everything. It is because of time that parents give birth to a child, and it is because of the time that their child one day dies. Although time orchestrates both birth and death, it is never born nor dies. In other words, time is eternal. Dhruva interrupted. Since time orchestrates everything, it seems partial to some and opposed to others. Verses 20 and 21. Manu shook his head. As eternal time, the Lord is neutral. No one is his friend or enemy. Carried by time, everyone enjoys or suffers the consequences of their own acts. Just as dust particles are blown about by the wind, the all-powerful Vishnu awards one with the results of work, and thus they attain different bodies of varying life duration. He, however, remains in the transcendental position, unaffected by karma. So you are saying that Uttam died because of his own karma, said Dhruva. I have heard great sages explain the reasons for birth and death differently. Verse 22, Manu nodded. Yes, I have heard these arguments. Some of the sage Charvak's followers who call themselves Lokayats say that there is no higher controller. They say everything happens due only to nature itself. Then there are some students of Purans called Vyavaharikas who say material time is responsible. But they think time acts independently of any higher spiritual guide. Astrologers say that the position of the planets determine the fate. There are yet others who say one's own desires are the prime mover behind everything. Some philosophers who deny all duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible, and the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause. Yes, I have heard such arguments, said Dhruva. Verse 23, Manu chuckled, "These are all speculations. You cannot understand the absolute truth by guesswork or experimental knowledge. The fact is that nature, time, and the individual's proclivities all come from the Supreme Lord and depend on Him. Yet He is invisible and unfathomable." Verse 24 and 25 now. Manu looked around at the slain yakshas lying on the battlefield. "My dear son, these yakshas are Kuvera's descendants. Do not blame them for your brother's death, for the birth and death of every living being is ultimately caused by Vishnu. Yet he too is not to blame, for he acts without any material desire or attachment. He is not affected by the three modes of nature." Dhruva closed his eyes. He needed to think. How does the Lord cause everything while not being responsible for anything? An example from his own life came to mind. As the king, he established both universities and prisons along with their entrance criteria. When one citizen goes to university and another goes to prison, it was in one sense due to the king, but he was not responsible. In other words, the king had opened the universities and the prisons, so the people were going to universities and prison, but the king, he is not responsible. It is the choice of the citizens. Another doubt entered his mind. As the king, he became angered at wrongdoers and pleased with the good citizens. Was Vishnu not the same? He looked up at Manu and said, "You say that the Lord acts without attachment or desire. Does he mean he is neither pleased nor displeased by anyone's material acts?" Verse 26, Manu said, "Let me explain. There are two realities, the internal spiritual and the external material world. The Lord is always personally present in the spiritual world. In the material world, he is present as the supersoul, a Gunavatar who functions as part of the material creation. It is in this capacity that he controls, maintains, and annihilates everything and everyone. He is dispassionate in his dealings in the material world, unlike those in the spiritual world." Dhruva pressed his forehead. The supersoul may be dispassionate, but how can anyone expect that of him? He was Uttama's elder brother. He had to avenge him. The Yaksha race must be exterminated. Verse 27, Manu looked with compassion at the young king, who was still clearly conflicted. He said, "My dear boy, just follow the Supreme Lord's directions with full faith. He arranges everything for our highest good. We are all under his control, even Lord Brahma, exactly as a farmer controls his bull with a rope through its nose." Verse 28, do you recall how at the tender age of 5 you completely trusted the Lord? Dhruva, your stepmother insulted you and immediately you went to the forest to engage in mystic meditation like the yogis. You wanted Vishnu's help. Just see the result of trusting him. You have achieved the topmost position in all the 3 worlds. Yes, grandfather, this is true. Please tell me, what does the Lord want of me? Verse 29, stop seeing the world from the bodily perspective. See the world from your original position as the Lord's eternal servant. What do you mean? As long as you think you are this body and see others in the same way, you will differentiate between people on a temporary and illusory basis. You will think Uttam is your brother and the Yakshas are your enemies. In truth, we are spirit souls, Krishna's eternal servants, and as long as we are in the material world, we will constantly change bodies. Who knows, maybe Uttam has been reborn as a Yaksha. Does that mean you will now hate him? Dhruva's mouth fell open. This was a powerful truth. How could he hate anyone because of their body? Stop seeing them from the material viewpoint. See things as they are. Everyone is a spirit soul, a part and parcel of Krishna and his eternal servant. If you see like this, you will be equal toward everyone. Dhruva sighed. He had not exactly displayed equanimity towards the Yakshas. He said, what you say sounds simple enough, but it's hard to practice. Verses 30 and up to 32 now. Manu put his arm on Dhruva's shoulder. I know, my boy, keep serving Krishna, who resides in everyone's heart as a supersoul. By each service you attained your goals even as a child. Continue to serve him now, and by his grace you will soon be free of this illusory conception of life and become fixed in your natural identity as a spirit soul. My dear king, continuously hear the truths about Krishna as you are now hearing them from me. This acts like a medicine that cures the spiritual disease known as the bodily conception. Once free of this malaise, you will never again be controlled by anger. Please follow this instruction and you will attain all good fortune in your life. In the meantime, even if you still feel angry, do not act on it. An angry person strikes fear in others' hearts. As a result, he cannot attain Krishna's mercy and achieve liberation from the bodily concept of life. Verses 33 and 34 now. There is one other thing you should know. By killing the Yakshas, thinking them to be your brother's killers, you have offended Lord Shiva's brother, Kuber. I advise that you immediately pacify him with gentle words and prayers. He is a great personality and it is not advisable to create enmity between him and our family. Now the last verse of this chapter, chapter 11, Dhruva touched, which is verse 35, Dhruva touched Manu's feet. I shall do as you say, my lord. Manu raised a hand in blessing. Dhruva had clearly regained his composure. There was no further need for him to remain. He boarded his chariot and departed along with the celestial sages who had accompanied him. So this was chapter 11. Manu intervenes. Swayambhuva Manu, of course, who was King Dhruva's grandfather, father of King Uttanpad, Dhruva's father. So it's such an bliss, actually, bliss and pleasure to read the pastimes of Lord Dhruva, how he started his journey as a 5-year-old who got angry from his father because he wouldn't let him sit on his lap because his stepmom, she didn't wanted him to be sitting on the lap, and how Dhruva's mother, she told Dhruva that don't get angry, just pray to Lord. The Lord will listen to your prayers. And he goes to the forest to pray, and there Narad Muni comes and advises this young 5-year-old child that he has to please the Lord Vishnu, and he starts praying to Lord, and how Lord Vishnu, now Lord Narayan, he appears before him and asks that what he wants to have. And what did he ask? He says that I wanted to have bigger kingdom than on my own father, but after having your the audience or the darshan, Bhagwan, I don't want anything. All I want is your association. And Bhagwan says that you will have that anyway, and you will also have your own celestial abode called Dhruvalok, which we know is there. And you will also have all the material opulences as well. So he not only became the king of the 3 worlds, he ruled them for so many thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And then even when everything gets destroyed, all the planets gets destroyed after the 4 cycles of the yugas, the Dhruvaloka still remains intact. It is eternal, just as Lord Vishnu spiritual abode itself, or Krishna's abode itself. So this shows that when you please Lord, God gives you everything what you deserve, what you had desired. So his material desires were fulfilled, and he got the other desire which came instantly after having the darshan of Lord, that he wanted the association and he wanted to serve the Lord, and he got that that desire also fulfilled. So we will continue tomorrow from the next chapter, which is Dhruva returns to the spiritual world, and lots of teachings for all of us, that how we have to see everyone, no matter which body platform they are ill, they are well, they are man, they are woman, they are young, they are old, because that is just a bodily conception which has been termed as the spiritual disease, the bodily conception. Actually the Atma, it is forever young, forever eternal. It just travels from one body to another. And what is the cure for that spiritual disease? Swayambhuva Manu says to Dhruva, that is to hear about the glories of the Lord, to hear about the pastimes of the Lord. That is the only thing which keeps us away from this bodily conception. So thanks for joining, and we will continue with chapter 12 tomorrow. I wish you all a very blissful week ahead. Please chant and be happy and hear the glories of the Lord and do your duties in this material world. Hare Tat Sad, Hare Krishna.